everyone, this is Sray. Welcome to my channel. For today's video, I want to share my experiences of what it's like to be a first generational college student. So for my background, I am an immigrant. I came to America when I was 5. My mother came, actually my dad came to America first. He came when I was 2 years old, and my mother came when I was 3. And I lived with my grandmother the entire time. We all lived with my grandmother. And I lived with my grandmother until I was 5, and I came to America when I was 5. And I was the only child at the time until I was 12 years old. That was when my brother was born. But I am also the first one in my family to go to college. So just a background of my parents' education. There was a Khmer Rouge in the 70s when they were children. So the Khmer Rouge was a genocide. So it was similar to the Holocaust, where millions of people died. And they were in concentration camps. My parents were in that. And, when that ended, I believe it only lasted a few years, but, probably felt like a lot longer. After that ended, there was kind of no society and everyone had to start all over again. My mother actually was able to graduate high school, but my father didn't. Most of the people, it's not abnormal for immigrant Cambodians to not have graduated any type of schooling, because they had to work and help provide for the family. And if it just means fishing for fish and food, that's what they were doing, because, why would I send my children off to school when we need to eat? And I remember, actually, when I went to visit Cambodia, I remember the place my mother and her family lived in after the Khmer Rouge. It was like a gazebo. I was bawling my eyes out when I saw it. I was like, this is where you guys lived after the genocide? Oh my gosh, they were literally starting from scratch. I was heartbroken. And there was only so much they can do. My mother, I believe she made snacks, and that's what she sold to help her family. My father would go fishing, and he lived in the countryside. As time went on, they were able to make money and buy a home or build a home. And when I say build a home, I mean like from like sticks, like dried, I believe, banana leaves. I'm not 100% sure about that, but it wasn't like a regular home, like brick or cement. Like they manually made it. So those were some of the homes, on the countryside of Cambodia. So it was survival. And my parents did not get to have the luxury of obtaining an education like me, except for my mother. Again, she finished high school, but she didn't get to go to college. So migrating here to America, that was their main motivator. Sray, they didn't call me Sray, but I'm gonna refer to myself as such. Sray, you're going to college. There's no other option. We brought you to America. You're not going to fail us. You're not going to embarrass us. You're going to get an education and you're going to get a good job. I was told that since I was little. It was all kind of what was told to me, and that's kind of the only option I had. I remember trying to go to a vocational school, and my mom's like, nope, you're not working in high school. You're focusing on school so you can get into college. I'm not trying to get you to get a job. You're not dropping out of high school or college or anything like that. Good and bad, depending how you look at it, because there's nothing wrong with the trade either, and I'm not getting into a lot of debt. But there are struggles of being a first generation college student. You don't have anyone to rely on. Filling out FAFSA, filling out college applications, figuring out SATs, how to study for the SATs. Now let me share with you my college experience. I personally actually didn't do well in the SATs. I think I took it once and I got a fairly low score. And I was like, senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go to my local community college, because I know you can transfer to our state college after that, and it's a lot cheaper. I did well in school. Like, I wasn't a bad student or anything. I just didn't really have someone to guide me and understand that there were preparations that I needed to do, such as pre-SATs or SATs. I would see my others. I was in like decently high-level courses. Like, I actually took college level courses that were a part of our community college. I actually got 4 classes for free because I tested into it, and I was technically a dual enrollment. I was a senior high school student, but also I was getting credit for my community college. So it wasn't like I wasn't good at school or anything like that. I just didn't have anyone to guide me. Luckily, there was a program at my school that assisted children with applying for FAFSA. And I know other people who didn't go to college because they were having trouble figuring that out. So I was lucky enough to have that because my parents were not able to guide me through FAFSA. They don't know what FAFSA is. They don't understand. They didn't go to college. And to go to college, it costs thousands of dollars, and I needed some money somewhere to borrow student loans. And it was through the government, and I luckily had guidance. But I had to figure all of this out on my own. Learning that college books were hundreds of dollars, that broke my heart. I luckily had a job in college, so therefore I was able to support myself to a certain extent. I lived at home because I decided to go to my local community college, which is really, really smart, by the way. Don't let anyone make you feel ashamed of that, because I still went to my state school, and I still say my bachelor's is from my state school. The best advice I ever got was from my English senior year high school teacher. She says, they only care where you graduate. They don't care where you start. They just care where you got your bachelor's from. They don't care that you started at a certain school. Because the thing is, you can start out at Harvard, but if you don't graduate, you don't get to say my bachelor's is from Harvard. And if you ended up going to a lower tier school, they don't care that you started at Harvard. Same thing as they don't care if you start at a community college. So, and it's half the price as well. But I didn't get to dorm or anything like that, which is fine. I got to save money. So, figuring out that was difficult to say the least, but once I figured out the student loans, I needed to figure out books, because I was able to get my loans for the tuition, but they didn't cover books. Luckily, I started Googling, and you can rent books on Amazon for like $25 for a semester. So instead of paying $200, I'm paying $25. Except for some of the math stuff where you needed the package, which was a couple $100s. And I don't know if the calculators today are still expensive, but at the time, they were at least $100. I had to buy them since high school. So we had to buy an expensive calculator for like calculus. So there was that. But I tried my best to kind of use my part-time money because I didn't have to pay rent, luckily, and I didn't have to pay any bills living with my parents. So therefore, I used all of the extra money that I had to pay for my books and pay for all of that. It was very interesting to kind of see children have a different experience as me. You know, again, it's not your fault that you grew up with a little more money, and it's not my fault that I didn't. But I remember, so I was a nail tech, and I was a nail tech. So by the way, I went to nail school my first semester of college, community college. I took 4 classes of community college, and at night I was going to nail school for 3 months at the same time. So it was all within the first semester for 2 hours a night. No, I'm sorry. It was 4 hours a night. It was like from like 5 to 9 for nail school, 2 days a week. And so that's 8 hours. And then I had a full-time study. And then I had a retail position that I worked about 25 hours a week on top of that. So I was a busy girl because I was also doing homework. It was really interesting when I was a nail tech after I graduated nail school, got my license, and got a nail job. I remember this stuck in my memory. There was a frequent mother and daughter. The daughter was around my age. We actually ended up going to the same state school too. But I remember at one point school was about to start for our semester, and the mother was like, oh yeah, take my credit card so you can buy your books. And I was like, wow. You know, like, you don't think of little things like that. Like, my mother didn't have the luxury to be like, take my credit card and go pay for your books. $600 worth of books, $500. And it was just interesting to see the differences, you know, of like, I'm over here working this nail job just so I can afford some rental books. But it's just nice to see that there are families out there that can afford full price books for their children, and this child didn't have to work whatsoever, which is a privilege in itself. And I'm not shaming anyone who has that. Good for you. Take advantage of it while you can. But it was just interesting coming from my point of view of, you know, my parents didn't have that extra money. They didn't even understand that books were so expensive. I just never asked my parents because I didn't think they had the money, or that I wanted to burden them with that expense. So definitely coming from a point of view where we had less money growing up, and our parents didn't go to school. They didn't understand that it costs so much money to go to school. It was an interesting experience to say the least, but I feel for you guys who are doing a similar situation where you have to work and go to school just to fund some books and gas just to get to class. So it was hard. It was hard, and it hurt a little because I was like, oh wow, you know, it is possible to have an easier experience. And especially those who have an immigrant background, or if you're an immigrant or if your parents are immigrant, they don't know what they're talking about, but they always push college on you. You know, they don't know that you don't need to go to college. But that's all they're pushing on you. They don't understand the stress and hardship that it brings, but that's all they're pushing on you. And it just feels like, you know, it's a very lonely journey. And it's not like this girl got to rely on her mother, which was beautiful and awesome to see. But it's like my mother is pushing me to go to college, but she doesn't understand that it takes hours to do homework, and it's so much stress. And on top of it, we're paying for books. It used to be free. I went to a public high school. I didn't have to pay for any books. What the heck is this? You know, college isn't free. So that's what it was. But it was very different for me to experience that. And I kind of want to go into a little deeper in the sense of like the feeling of feeling forced to get an education by those who never got an education, and they kind of parade that over you. Because I remember kind of bringing that up with my mother and saying like, you didn't get this degree, you didn't spend hours studying this, don't take credit for it, this is not fair. I spent hours stressing over a paper. There were times where I didn't go to sleep because I was so scared I would fail a test, because it was my last class to finish my bachelor's. And my mother decides to throw a jab at me and be like, well, I didn't go to college, but you know what? I told you to go. So that's where I take my credit. I was smart enough to tell you to go to college. Excuse me, lady, just because you tell me to do something, it means it poof, magically just happens? The whole world was telling us to go to college. Teachers were telling us to go to college. How come there's parents that tell their kids to go to college and they don't finish college? They don't even go. You think that you saying that means anything? I don't know if any of you have experienced anything as such, but you know, my mother, who is an immigrant, really has this air to her that she thinks that, you know, yes, you brought me to this country. Yes, you're the reason why I have these opportunities. But there's still things I had to do that involved me and only me. Because you did not know how to figure out FAFSA. For goodness sakes, you barely could say my major. It was entrepreneurship and management information systems, and she could barely say it. I'm not trying to be mean, but this woman really tried to take credit for my hard work. And I was just like, oh no, we're not going there. No, because please, lady, please tell me that I am going to be a millionaire. Because if things happen just because you tell me I'm gonna be a millionaire, because I want that. Because I bet you it's not gonna happen without me trying to be a millionaire and putting all that hard work that comes with it. So this is where it's hard. You're trying to live up to your parents' expectations, what they don't even understand what you're going through. And when you try to express how stressful and hard it is, especially student loans, you know, they say things like this, and it's like, it's very difficult to connect with our parents, but we're also trying to please them as immigrant children, where, you know, we don't want to embarrass them, and that's why they came to this country. We don't want them to feel like they came here for nothing, because they do put that pressure on you saying, I didn't move to this country just for you to be a failure. But then they don't understand that what they're asking us to do is so hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And can you imagine graduating and not getting a job? Can you imagine that? And can you imagine the student loans that I have to pay? Because I would sit there and complain about my student loans after. And you know what? My mom just says, well, it's okay, you have those student loans. Without that degree, you wouldn't be making your salary. And it's like, right, but I don't get 100% of my salary. A good chunk of it goes to my student loans. She doesn't know what that's like. She doesn't know what it's like to have to pay that. I understand she had her own hardships, but the fact that she says things as if it's just so easy when she's never gone through it bothers me. And it's hard to talk to someone like that because there's so many elements to it. It's the element of like, look, mom, I did what you wanted me to do. I made you proud, you know, that you came to this country so I can get an education. And then you want to talk about the sadness that comes with it and the stress, and they downplay all of that, and they want to take credit for the successes, but they downplay, and they don't want to. Some parents might be great parents to be there for you, but from my experience, they weren't. And a lot of the experiences I've had with my friends who also have immigrant parents, they had similar experiences where it was negative too. They want to downplay your struggles as if, you know, well, you know what, if it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have this, and forget about it. It was worth it at the end of the day. It was worth it, sure, to a certain extent, but it still was hard. Like, you tell me to run a marathon so I can dig for gold, but like, you're the one telling me, but I'm the one who did all of that. I'm the one who digged, and I'm the one who ran the like 24 miles, whatever it is, to get the gold. You can't take credit for just telling me. Because you can tell someone else and they're not going to do it. So are you going to keep saying, like, you know, are you going to apply that theory there too of whatever I say comes true and I'm the one who navigates? Because you're telling this other person they're not doing it. I put the actual hard work into it. Give me the credit. Stop taking it from me. I know that was a little bit of personal venting, but therefore I'm sharing this story because I found a lot of commonalities when it comes to immigrant parents and kind of their dismissive behavior towards us. And a lot of my friends are also Asian descent, where most of us are from Asia that I've known, and it's very similar experiences where they expect you to do so much for them, such as my parents like would call me because they couldn't call someone on Facebook, and I'm like, I'm not near you. You also have another child. He is 16 years old and you can ask him for assistance. I moved out. Stop calling me. It's a little hard when you're the firstborn of an immigrant family and you were the one that was always assisting with translating documents as well. And you're the first one to go to college, and you're the first one to do a lot of the successful things in life. So you're always just expected to do everything for them. It's hard and it stinks, and I definitely had to learn my boundaries and, you know, cut that communication off as much as I can because it was getting stressful, because I now have my adult life, adult bills, adult things to worry about, adult job, that I can't be that child to always translate scripts for them. I didn't just have only school anymore. I had other things to worry about. What was also difficult was sometimes coming back home, and, you know, the element of they didn't understand that, like, I can't do this right now. I have an exam to study for, and they just downplayed that. Like, they didn't understand that I needed 5 hours to not do chores right now so I can study. So this is where it's conflicting. It's like, you're telling me to go to college, but to go to college, it takes me 5 hours to study for a particular exam. But you also want me to do the housely chores at the same time. You never went, and you're telling me that it shouldn't be that hard. Did you go? You didn't go, and you don't know that I need these 5 hours for this specific topic because I'm a little bit behind or whatever the case may be. And that's what's difficult. It's like, I'm doing this to please you, but then you're undermining my experience. You think that you know when you've never gone, but then you're also expecting me to still do what I need to do around the home and to satisfy you and also to meet your dreams of going to college. It was a lot to balance. It was a lot of difficult emotions going on at one time, and it was just hard to talk to someone who it's their dream for you to go to college, but they didn't understand the work that you needed to do to get there, to finish it, because they never went. But then they just downplayed and think it's so easy. and it is difficult to kind of maybe connect with your peers as well when they're not going through similar things. So because I stayed home in my hometown, I kept a lot of my hometown friends. Again, I don't really care if you went to college or not. Like, that's not really what makes us friends. But at the same time, there are just things that we can't fully talk about. Like, my friends that just worked, they don't understand that when I said I can't go out today, this weekend because I have homework to do, and they didn't, or they never had homework because I went to college, they would say like, you can never go out. Even if they're joking, like, there was a sense of attitude to it, and like, you never can go out, you always have homework. Yeah, like, you never enjoy life. And it's like, I can never win. It just feels like, bro, like, I'm not lying. What do you want me to do? Choose between you and a party and my degree? I'm gonna choose my degree. I'm not even sorry about it. But there was a lot of issues that occurred because also the thing is, I was a commuter. I commuted to college. I didn't dorm, therefore I didn't get to make a lot of college friends. I didn't join any sororities. I didn't join any clubs or anything like that. Also, my school didn't really have a lot of that stuff. Like, didn't really have a lot of sororities because it was mainly a commuter school. Everybody lived around and would drive there. Also, I had a job. My free time, I'd be working. So it was difficult to connect with my peers that were around me because they weren't experiencing life the same way I was experiencing. And we had different goals, like, they're doing other things with their lives and I'm doing other things with my life. And in the long run, to be quite honest, when I look back on it, a lot of the friends that I had at the time, I'm no longer friends with them. Like, they're just doing different things, which is fine, nonetheless, but it feels very lonely. I also went to graduate school as well. I got my master's, and even that was extremely lonely because I also commuted it to school as well. And interestingly enough, my program had a lot of international students. So on our free times, they were all speaking either Chinese, Mandarin, or Hindi, the Indian language. Therefore, I was kind of just there twiddling my thumbs because I didn't know either language. So that was a little bit difficult as well to connect, and I just never honestly made any friends from college. Everybody around me was always in a different situation than I was, and it was very lonely and it felt very isolated. And even at home, I didn't have the best support system when it came to that because they didn't even really feel like they wanted to understand what I was going through, even though they took a lot of credit for my successes and my credibility of a degree, and be like, they like to say things like they're the reason why I went to college, when they told me, but I put in all those years, right, my own, and I'm still paying off my student loans myself. They chipped in here and there, but it wasn't, the percentage probably wasn't even 1% of the entire thing. So therefore, the experience was lonesome, and it was isolating. And I never really thought about the idea of first generational college student until one of my clients brought it up to me, because their mother was a psychologist, and their mother actually aided in this area. They would go to college campuses and kind of create a support group for those who were first generational college students. And I didn't really put myself in that category. I didn't think that I needed the help. I didn't think that maybe like I was a demographic that even really mattered. I didn't think that I was different, but I was. And I kind of wish I knew about a group like that or joined a group like that, just so I could be around people who experienced it. Because those who went to college where their parents went to college is a very different experience for them. And just like the girl that was able to get their parents' credit card, like their parents understood how much college costs, so there's like, here's some money. And peers who had parents who could set them up with internships because they already worked at a corporate job. My parents didn't work at a corporate job. They worked at factories. They couldn't set me up with one. Like, they didn't know anything about it. Like, my first part-time job, I had to get it on my own. They didn't understand how to apply to that. They got their jobs through their friends, through the community. Of like, oh yeah, I know I have a job here. Let me go apply there too because so-and-so works there. So they didn't have that experience that I did. They don't know what it's like to have to write a resume and talk about your skill sets and such. So, I mean, to be quite honest, ever since middle school, I stopped looking to my parents for guidance for a lot of school-related things. But they still had a play in my life where they wanted me to go to school, right? I still lived with them, so it's not like they were completely vanished and didn't have any say in my life, because the whole reason why I went to college was because of them. And that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody. Like, I moved to this whole other country, you better get an education because we're not going to be seen as failures. You're not going to fail us as a family. That's a lot of pressure to put on a child. And like, you're putting your whole family legacy on somebody. And I know a lot of us deal with this. A lot of immigrant children deal with this because can you imagine like sitting there and being responsible for why your parents went to a new country? It's very unfair because truly, yes, it's true that you came here to give your child a better life, but at the same time, your child didn't have a say. I didn't have a say if I wanted to come here. I actually didn't want to come here. Most of my family was in Cambodia, and I had a lot of aunts and uncles and friends there. I didn't want to leave my grandmother. I didn't want to leave my aunts and uncles that I loved and grew up with. I knew nobody here. It was just my mom and dad. We didn't have a big family here. It was very lonesome, and they were always working, so I was alone. I didn't want to be here. And now I have the responsibility of meeting their goals that they set for me, which includes a college degree. What if I didn't want to go to college? When I think back on it, like, I wonder if I ventured off into a different avenue. You know, college isn't the only way to live life. But nonetheless, I'm sharing my story again because I really want to just incorporate what it's like to kind of grow up in this environment and showcase that, you know, you're not the only one. And unfortunately, our parents really did put this pressure on us to be their successor and leave a legacy and all of this jazz that you might not even give an F about. You know, you might not even care about no degree or career because that's not what your life goals are about. Yeah, I don't really have too many points and tips besides I can relate. And I know what it's like to go through that, to deal with expectations that really weren't really fully yours. They were just programmed into you since you were a child, and that's kind of what you did because the people you live with would mistreat you otherwise if you didn't do that. I have student loans now, but you know, sometimes I feel like I wonder if I chose a different route, what things would have been like. I don't know. I'm already here and I'm going to make the best of it. I'm going to make the best of my degree. I'm going to make the best of my career. I still have student loans to pay off. You know, I have that inner child dream of being a nomad and just traveling around, having nothing. I find that beautiful. Quick side note, I did go to Asia for a few months. I saved up doing nails while I was in college, and I remember thinking like, I don't want to go back. I finished undergrad and I took about 6 months to travel in Southeast Asia and to visit my family. And I was like, oh my gosh, there are kids. They were in their 20s too, but I met people from Europe that would come to their country, which I think some of them were like in England or Finland or wherever. They would work whatever jobs, save up, and then just go travel for a few more months or a year. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. You know, like, I loved that freedom. Like, they were able to do whatever they wanted. If it wasn't for student loans, I don't know if I would have came back, because there were people that worked at hostels and just lived off of that. Like, they got a free place to stay and they just wanted to hang out at the beach. I thought that was so cool. I didn't want to come back. I learned so much when I was traveling. I learned so much about society, different cultures, governments, things like it. It broadened my life and my eyes so much than college ever did. I know there's the whole college is good because it gives you a foundation and a career and a house and da. But if you really want to live that dream, chase it. You know, you'll figure it out. There's a will, there's a way. We don't need that much money anyways, really, to live life and survive and have a place to stay. And it's beautiful. the freedom. I'm attracted to the freedom. I'm attracted to running and chasing after, you know, the next high of like, where am I gonna be the next day? Like, that was so cool. But those who are experiencing this, I just want to share with you that I felt lonely as well, you know, thinking back on it. I didn't make a lot of friends throughout college either. It was hard to connect with my peers, the ones from my hometown that didn't go to college. It was hard to connect with those who went to college as well because, you know, they were dorming or they were just living a different life than me. They weren't working part-time. But it's okay because I believe everything happens for a reason, and I believe that that taught me independence and to hold my own, and be able to go through things independently alone. I'm fine that I like came out of it with not with like a lot of friends or a sorority or anything like that, but I got my degree. You can't take that away from me. I wish I could sell it, but I can't. Yeah, I just hope that, you know, if you're going through a similar situation where you have parents or anyone who is your guardian that is putting pressure on you and you feel alone, I just want to let you know you're not the only one. You're not the only one going through this journey, being a first generational student, college student, and being something different for your family, to live up to their dreams or just to have a better life for your own. And I wish you all the best of luck. I wish you graduate and I wish you get a job, get an internship, to get experience. And, you know, I wish you well. I really, really do. Because we just hope that we do all that for something. We don't want it to, you know, not mean anything. And I hope you get a good salary and I hope you're able to afford the things you want to afford. Like, that's what college is about at the end of the day, to provide for yourself and provide for the lifestyle that you're hoping for. And if college isn't for you, that's fine too. If you end up dropping out, that's fine too. At least you found that out sooner than later. But good luck to you, truly. Good luck to your journey in school and what you do and how things go, and continue to persevere, because if you're able to go through it alone, no one can really say anything that they had a hand in your success. You can go through anything else after that. You can keep pushing and keep pushing, and it does apply to later on in life where you're going from different companies, possibly, you know, like, it's like I went through college alone. I didn't really have a study group. I can keep going and learning new things at different companies. I can figure it out. I figured it out alone all this time anyways. I can keep figuring it out alone. I don't need anybody else. I know what it's like to be by myself and work alone. I think that's the important message here. Being the first in your family to do that, you really learn how to be independent. And no one can take that away from you. No one can teach you how to be independent but yourself. And I take that as a life lesson of how I carry on through many things where I'm not scared to do anything for the first time, because I've done many things for the first time without assistance. And I figured it out once and I'll figure it out again, because there are many things I've never done before. Nobody taught me how to do anything, and I did it, and I can continue to learn new things and persevere and succeed at new things. Yeah, so good luck on your journey. I am sending you internet love for your journey to be finishing school and getting all the success and support that you could possibly get, and I'm rooting for you. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a nice day. Bye.